I asked if you all had questions. Apparently you do. Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, my name is Bryan Jenks, and today we're going to be talking about, well, the questions you asked me. I put out a AMA, or Ask Me Anything, on Twitter, and asked you all for your questions, and we're going to be going through all of those today. Now, I'm going to list out timestamps for all of these because I do tend to be a little bit long-winded and tangent because, thank you, ADHD. But all the timestamps for every individual question will be listed in the pinned comment below. So if you want us to jump around, feel free. They're all going to be listed there. And let's just get started. The first question is, when am I going to release or launch my Obsidian course? Thank you, Gwen, for your question. Gwen's an awesome YouTuber, by the way. You should check her out, too. The Obsidian course is coming. It is a massive undertaking because I'm not just doing a little bit of information. I'm trying to make this absolutely 0 to 99. Everything involving the application, a lot of the technology around the application. Basically, somebody who's never touched Markdown, Obsidian, or anything, all the way up to doing everything I'm doing in it. Now, by the time this actually gets onto YouTube, I may have made a decision, but I'm thinking about a different type of pricing model just so I can get something out now and add to it over time, so that way people don't have to wait forever for a potentially completed and maybe outdated product. So it's coming. I'm working on it. It's not just on the back of my mind, but I do hear you all. It is coming. Believe me, I want to get this out too. I got other things I want to focus on too. How did I get into R? If you're unfamiliar with R, R is a statistical programming language with a myriad of libraries and a vast ecosystem for statistical computing as well as documentation and dashboarding. I got into R in one of my analyst roles when I was in the quality management section in my former department. And I used to do a lot with VBA and Excel, making applications and automated stuff, but VBA and Excel are not very robust, not really reproducible, and not really secure. It's just not good. So I got into R, and I really liked R Markdown, which is why I have a whole playlist on my channel for R Markdown. Link I'll put up there. But I love R Markdown, and that's one reason why I'm really good with Markdown in general and like Obsidian is because R Markdown has a lot of things you can do with it. And yeah, I really got interested in R Markdown and then the programming language itself. It's really easy to just get really good looking output with R with very minimal code because it's not a traditional programming language. It's a language made for and by statisticians. So it's meant to just do the work, get out of the way, and allow the control that lets statisticians do what they need to do. It has its shortcomings. It is single-threaded, but there's been work around that. Like any programming language, people try to do everything that every other thing can do in that particular language. It's just a really great thing. I really, really, really enjoy it for creating awesome documentation, shiny dashboards, flex dashboards, HTML exports. It's just an amazing tool. You can create whole websites using Hugo and R Markdown. So you could basically just do everything you wanted to in R. Send tweets from R, do sentiment analysis on your Obsidian Vault in R, a website, a blog. Like, you can do everything with R. And it's just a really versatile and fun language. But it was my job when I was an analyst in quality management, and that's when I got started with it. Forgot to mention, I do have a intro to R video. It's kind of just like a, hey, it's kind of cool, you should check it out video. It was posted on Brad Traversy's channel before I was really even semi-decent at video editing. It's cringe to watch for me now. But it is the, last I checked, 3rd search result on YouTube for R. So if you go and search for R programming, you should probably see my video on Brad Traversy's channel. All right, 3 questions in one. I do have an FAQ GitHub repo. I will link that below. I do have a repo for frequently asked questions, and the first question is how tall am I? Because my handle on a lot of social media is Tall Guy Jenks, and I'm 6'6". Yeah, I'm a big guy. I did powerlifting for a little while, and I've been training for over a decade more. So I'm a pretty big guy, 6'6", 250 pounds, or 198 centimeters, and over, I think it's 120 kilos, 120 kilos. But yeah, what's been the most difficult part of making YouTube videos? Um, for me specifically, it has been just the act of beginning to film. Once I'm in the groove and I start filming something, I'm on a roll and it's snowballing, it's going downhill. It's just, okay, momentum. I could just keep going and going and going. So when I do get into that groove, I could film 4, 5, 6 videos in a day if I have them all scripted out. I love to script videos, but I do not like to actually do the filming. I prefer editing more than I prefer the filming, but I find it harder to just begin filming than I do to just begin editing because that's a less actively engaged process. There's more setup, there's more logistics. It's just the executive dysfunction from ADHD just makes it really hard to just begin the thing. But yeah, I would say the hardest thing is just beginning to film. And then thumbnails. I hate doing thumbnails. How does ADD help with your creative process? I have ADHD, so I'm not sure if people consider these the same thing or not. But how it helps, it both helps and hurts. Like the aforementioned answer, it makes it hard to start things, and often I don't have the patience to really like methodically edit and make everything as really crisp and shiny as a lot of other YouTubers are. Which is why once I reach the point where I can hire editor and an editor, I will be much happier because I like to just talk and script my videos. If I did to do all the editing and the graphic design stuff and all the aesthetic things to somebody else, that would be better for me because I prefer just the bullet point structuring, documentation, analytical. Yeah, I'm that type of person. But where does it help me? It helps me in my systems thinking. So when I'm dissecting something, a workflow, a process, it's systems. And dissecting systems, looking at them, figuring out how they work, the balances of them, which things work best, which things work worse, which tool could I insert here, how might that look in the grand view, just all of these things at once. I can have a large swath of an overview over all of these different types of information and points, and containing that all in my head because I'm really good, in my opinion, at systems thinking. So knowing that makes it really easy to script videos, but also just to see how to do things, how to approach anything from like the idea of it as a system and how can I automate it, improve it, make it better, or trim the fat. So I think that helps me not just with my creative process, but with a lot of facets in my life. Who is my favorite YouTuber? There's no answer to that question. There's no one person I like more than anybody else. And I have such an eclectic myriad of interests that I could have a favorite in a particular field or a topic, but there's no absolute favorites. So if I have to list something, I'm just going to list my favorite band or musical group, Heilung, because I think their music is the best thing on the planet. So I'll just say them, but there's not really any favorite. What got me into Linux and programming? So two separate things. What got me into Linux? I've been around Linux for a long time. I remember being a little kid with my dad, and my dad actually used to run Red Hat Linux on his computer. I didn't realize until I was an adult that, oh wait, that wasn't actually Windows, that was Red Hat. So I've been around it. My dad was a software engineer in the 90s when I was a kid, and so I've been like, I wasn't really like knowledgeable about like any of that. I didn't know anything about any of that, but like it was around. And then once I played around with Linux just because I wanted to like mess around with it and I'm curious. So like I already had some laptops with different distributions on it. Like I played with Mint, I played with Ubuntu. But then when I started watching Luke Smith's videos, and the person who asked this question is, he knows that he's following because of Luke Smith, or maybe not. But a lot of my audience originally was Linux based and from watching Luke Smith. Um, and that was really the impetus to really start diving into like Linux was Arch Linux by using Luke Smith's system, LARBS, Luke's auto rice bootstrapping script, and really getting into that. I really want to return to Arch though and do my own build and make a system completely my own, geared specifically to myself and how my brain works. And I think that would be a really cool undertaking. The only limiting factor is that I just don't have time at the moment to tinker. I got too many priorities and things going on, but when I do have time, Making my own custom Arch build is definitely something on my roadmap and something that I'm going to likely document on YouTube. So that'll be nice. As for programming, I first got into programming. Well, the first time I did any programming was, editing my MySpace page, where we all used to edit HTML and insert things so that we could have falling little daggers and glitter pictures or whatever. So editing MySpace was the first time I ever touched anything even vaguely resembling code. But when I first started actually programming, it was when I started working for the state government here in California. And again, it was one of my analyst roles in quality management. And I was messing around with VBA, Visual Basic for applications, in the Microsoft Office suite. So I was able to write automated programs in Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook. So I actually was able to make some pretty interesting stuff to automate a bunch of reporting, manual tasks, some things to automate my inbox so I could easily just shove emails to an archive file or prioritize them, or even just like, hey, here's an email, click a button, and now it's a scheduled calendar event or something. But making those type of tools was really what I got into it for, because I saw a direct application that could affect my work, and it did. And I learned a lot about VBA. I've since moved on to much better and more robust tools, but VBA was where I got started, and some of the programs I wrote are still used throughout the state of California till today. So that's how I got into it. What important truth do few people agree with you on? Pineapple doesn't belong on pizza. No, in all seriousness, I don't really think I have a lot of really controversial opinions that few people would agree with me on. Um, yeah, I mean, I basically have opinions that are pretty widely accepted. I wanna say. I guess I could say something like something that I don't think many people think of that I think they should, would be like the definition of the word sonder. And basically that people have lives, stories, histories as rich and complex as your own, and that human beings are usually arrogant, egotistical, and full of themselves naturally. And we're wired that way just because, like, if you're trying to survive, you care about first your own interests. Like, if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like, you first care about your own survival. You're not worried about the social good, the community. You're worried about, I need to live first. So we're programmed and wired to be self-centered and concerned with ourselves first. And just when you have a stable society and you're able to like open up that the floodgates of, okay, I don't have to think about just myself. I can think about other people. People don't really think of other people as full-fledged people. They're just like NPCs in their own life. Like if I go down to the grocery store and I see, some of the people I commonly see at the grocery store who work there or that I went to high school with, it's like, okay, they're just, oh, there's that person, haha. But no, like when I see people, I think of people as that person. Their mother had cancer and died when they were 12, and then they had some really bad days in school, and this happened to them, and now they have a preference for this specific flavor of pizza, and they like to, cosplay on the weekends, and they, love to play this game on Twitch. Like, just those are just like surface level facts. But then you get into even the deeper stuff of like, what do they want out of life? What are their religious beliefs, or what do they feel? What do they practice? And like just the realization that everyone has their own story and history as rich and complex and valuable as your own, and that people shouldn't just be like dismissed as shadow side characters in your own life. Everyone is valuable, and I guess I have a more collectivist mindset that maybe most people would disagree with me on in America, because America is very individualistic, and I feel like I'm a lot more of a collectivist in mentality. So when I see people, I'm doing things like more for like the common good, and like, a really good test of that is like the theory of the return shopping cart. A lot of the things I'm quoting here are notes that I have in my own Obsidian vault. But the theory of the return shopping cart of, it's not in your interest and you don't really care and it doesn't really affect you, but are you the type of person that after you put your groceries in the cart, do you make the extra effort to go and put your cart in the cart return if it's slightly out of your way? Or do you just hike it up and put it on the planter? Like, Do you think about the common well-being, like, oh, if I put it into the cart return, it's going to make it easier for the person who gets the carts to do their job and maybe get back inside. It helps that person. But does helping that person inherently help you and benefit you in any way? No. So you're acting in the interest of something other than yourself. And I think that's a good gauge of where people might lie on that spectrum of individualism and collectivism. And I just try to go through life and act as if it's more. There are other people who are just as valuable and important as me out there. So I try to treat people with that level of patience and respect and knowledge that they are their own people, and nobody's inherently better or superior than anybody else. So this one is another batch of questions. What's your regular job? As of the filming of this on January 22nd, I am now a Research Data Specialist 1 with the California State Government. I'm not going to say what department, but I am a Research Data Specialist. What are the major problems in your field of expertise, and why aren't you working on them? Documentation, automation, availability, and how would you say, version control? But just like reproducibility, all of those factors around data, documentation, and public access to government information. And as for why I'm not working on them, I am. I've been trying to go to a department that has the need and that will give me the breadth and room to do that type of work to improve those types of systems. I've been given a lot of leeway and space to kind of go outside of the scope of the classifications I've held in public sector government, because I don't really care too much beyond like, I don't care if I'm working at a level higher than where I'm currently stationed. I literally cannot, because of bureaucracy, promote any faster. So once I reach that level, my reputation's already preceded me. I've shown competence. I'm more likely to get promoted. But like, I do work at the level I'm capable of doing, and I try to improve anything that I touch. So finding a good place really just comes down to the workplace culture, and can I actually make changes and do things and contribute to a team and be effective. So I am working on them actively and with much investment and motivation. What podcasts do I listen to? I'm not really good about staying on top of my podcast feed, but there are several that I do really enjoy. When I have the time to really like mentally chew on something, I really do like Philosophize This. And then my absolute favorite podcast that I've really enjoyed from the beginning to the end, that I'm currently waiting for the next season, is Command Line Heroes, that's put out by Red Hat. There's a bunch of other podcasts. I do get a lot of great ones I really like from The Art of Manliness. I'm looking at my phone right now, but yeah, I don't really follow too many podcasts just because I'm not really great about following up on that feed. Yeah, I'd say those are probably my main ones that I really, really enjoy. What do I hope to accomplish in 5 years? Hopefully by that point, I will have completed my master's degree. I will have promoted to the absolute limit of rank and file in whatever classification tree I end up in. And maybe by that time, I might be ready to consider maybe management, and after that, maybe even executive leadership. But in 5 years, probably the best that's going to happen is getting a little bit more forwards and upwards in the rank and file classification tree in state service. That would be cool. More money, but that's going to take a lot of experience and time. But I'm almost there at that upper limit of rank and file, actually. If we could clone a T-Rex, should we? There's an entire series of movies about why we should not do this. But in all seriousness, like, some biological creature's not going to withstand our modern weaponry. It's like, there's nothing that's really going to go wrong unless they start like mass producing them and just unleash them upon like the domestic world. If we could, should we? I don't know, maybe like a couple for studying or whatever the scientists think that they might want to do, but like, should we make a Jurassic Park? No. We probably would though, and then we'd probably recreate the movies. Another multi-parter. How do I tweak my graph colors in Obsidian? You may have already asked me this on Discord, but you can grab all the CSS that I use in Obsidian from my newsletter, link in the description and pinned comment. And there, if you just search graph on that file, you'll find the CSS that changes the graph nodes. It's like 5 different classes to change different nodes and different things, but it's relatively simple. And if anything, it's probably also publicly documented. Things I would have liked to know when I first started my YouTube channel that I now know. Thumbnails matter. They are incredibly important. And if possible, hire somebody else to do them because they're not that expensive to get really good ones. And that's like a really great step. Actually script everything. Don't shoot in one go. I was limited by the hardware I was using at the time, so I had to do that. But script things and actually do a little bit of editing as a bare minimum. Actually have timestamps. This is hard. Like there's a lot of things. I guess start an email newsletter as early as possible. Yeah, and don't worry about your niche. People like to say like don't copy other YouTubers because early on I did copy a lot of Luke Smith's style, but I did talk about a lot of things that he didn't, and in ways that he didn't, and in depth of detail that he didn't on several different topics. So like some of those things of the influences I copied, and you know, so what? I've found my own niche, I found my own way, and I'm now here. So you start by emulating what you most enjoy and like, and then you eventually make it your own, which is where I'm at now. And eventually I will return to Arch, and I'm gonna make that my own too by doing my own custom build. So I probably would let myself know like it's okay to emulate somebody that you admire, at least for like whatever skills or whatever they're doing, but ultimately do try to find your own way when you become comfortable. But yeah, I guess all those things. Everything I use Obsidian for with basic bullet points. I use it for my daily journal, for Zettelkasten notes, for notes for my school, for notes for just general technical material I might want to return to later. I want to pick up Python and the pandas library in Python again. I want some simple examples that I understand, that I wrote for me, that make sense to me, that I can just refer back to in my vault. I also use it for writing and structuring, at least as an outliner, Medium articles and YouTube scripts, and sometimes basic task management if it's tasks related to Obsidian. Overall, I use Todoist for task management, but if it's tasks like I need to flesh out this note in Obsidian, then basic task management too. How do I get my Obsidian workflow up to speed on mobile? Don't really understand this question because there's currently no mobile option for Obsidian, and I don't edit anything on my phone. I barely edit my vault with my remote options using my GitHub workflow. So I definitely don't do anything on mobile. So I have not even looked at this as a topic because I probably wouldn't use it much at all. If Obsidian comes out with a mobile application anytime soon, the most I would probably use it for is to like either update my daily note from my journal, like with voice to text, and or idea capture for if I have a random idea pop into my head and I want to make sure I can follow up on that later by just getting that in there in a capture location. Other than that, I probably wouldn't use the mobile app for much of anything. So that's about all I got for you on that one. When you have 4 ways to do XYZ, do you create a note for each list element? And you gave an example, but let's just see. If I have an example of something, and if I have 4 ways of doing a particular task, then I have a note for like, hey, here's something. And in that note, here are 4 ways to do this something. Now, if those 4 ways are very verbose and comprehensively documented, yeah, I might break them apart into their own notes and treat that main something note as an example of like putting in some narrative about like why one of those approaches might be better than the others, and then in the actual definition of what that approach entails, have it in its own note. It really just depends on how much material you're putting in. If it's just a simple 4-line, 5-line bullet list, I would just put it in the same note and I only have one. But I mean, if it's a lot of complex material, then yeah, having it broken out can help.